All right, I've registered for Project Catalyst. Now how do I vote? Welcome back to Woodland Pools, your place for the latest Cardano news, tutorials, and the information you need to grow your investment with confidence. Today let's figure out how to vote in Project Catalyst. We'll look at some resources that can help us along the way, and then we'll open up the Catalyst voting app and pick our favorites. Let's jump in. All right, Catalyst voting time. Pretty exciting stuff. Let's keep in mind that the voting that we're going to do here is not only going to help to assign funds to some really deserving and great ideas in the Cardano community, but also by participating in this process, we're all part of the trial run of the learning process of the whole ecosystem to get ready for Voltaire coming in the future and true self-governance. All the voting that we do here is all just training grounds for when the Cardano ecosystem manages itself and votes on things at the protocol level and not just on specific projects to be funded. But so that out of the way, we see ourselves here on cardano.ideascale.com. You want to make sure you have an account set up here. This way you can see for any given fund all of the different proposals and all of the different categories. But aside from IdeaScale, a good place to start when you're getting ready to vote is to come to the IOHK support page for Project Catalyst and look at the FAQ for the specific fund that you're voting on. We have here the FAQ for Fund 4, we'll link it in the description below, but you can come to the same place to get the FAQ for any fund, no matter when you're watching this in the future. One thing I will say, however, is that if you haven't already, you should definitely register for the Catalyst Announcements channel on Telegram. We'll link this as well. This is just Cardano Catalyst on Telegram. It's a really great channel where they put out different announcements of where you can find more information. We can see here, last night, a message, Fund 4 is officially live. And here's a pretty cool thing, this kind of information that we can also see. Here's some information on when voting starts and ends, but additionally we see here, have questions, we've got you. Here's an all you need to know Reddit post that just someone from the community put together that gives us all the information that we need to vote. So let's take a look at that. If we come over to this Reddit post, we've got a ton of great information. So let's look through some of the most important parts of it together. All right, time to cast our votes. So where is registration possible? It's already closed. By the way, for those of you that haven't registered and you want to participate in Fund 5, check out our playlist that we put out last week that gives you all the information you need to know on how to register. So when Fund 5 opens up, or any fund in the future, depending on when you're watching this, you can get up and running and you'll be ready to go. And then you can watch this video again when it's time to vote. So for our fund here specifically, we see the timeline. We have about 10 days to vote on things. Where can we register? Some FAQs, the one we were just looking at, compatible versions. But here we go. So this is an important thing I wanted to point out. The voting power represents the amount of ADA you held and registered at the time of the snapshot that took place on whatever the specific date was for your fund. Here's where they kind of break it down and make it clear. If your wallet had 500 ADA in it at the time, you have 500 voting power. If you had 50,000 ADA, you have 50,000 voting power. Now, let's remember that you're not spending any of this ADA and you're not sending it anywhere. If anyone asks you to send your ADA anywhere, it's definitely a scam. The only cost to you that this should have been was just solely the registration for the voting process. Voting power is a copy of your real ADA, the same way how your delegation to a stake pool, you're not actually sending your funds to the pool, it's just being assigned to that pool. Your voting power is another sort of delegation, another dimension to think about the ADA in your wallet. And so depending on how much ADA you had at the snapshot, that is your voting power. And that's basically how many votes of confidence you're doing from your wallet to that specific proposal. Now, this is a common question we get all the time about voting. You can vote for one proposal, or all of them, or anything in between. There are no limits. Now this can seem kind of confusing because a lot of times in voting type situations, there's a finite amount of votes you can do. But since you can vote on as many as you'd like, I recommend that go through the list and the ones that you think are good, give those a thumbs up for a vote and just do that for any one that you think is a good proposal. Or you could say, well, I'm only going to vote for one in each category. However you prefer to do, but it's totally up to you and your voting power will be fully assigned to each of them. It's not split up between them. If you had that 5,000 ADA and 5,000 voting power, your 5,000 would be assigned to each one. Now we'll take a look at this when we get into the actual Catalyst voting app, but there are sort of two phases to it. Think of it kind of like when you're going to buy something online on Amazon or something where you put the things into your cart and then you actually purchase it, right? We're going to go through and we're going to check the ones that we want to vote for, and then separately, we're going to then actually submit our votes. But that being said, once we've submitted our votes, we can still vote again while the voting round is running. And the way that it works is it'll just be like a last one wins. Every vote will overwrite the previous, which means only the last vote is valid. So this is nice because if for some reason you change your mind, you could just vote again and you can be confident that whatever it was that came through with the last timestamp, that's the one that's going to stick. When we're voting, we're going to have three options. We can vote yes for something, we can thumbs down it as a no for a negative, or we can just do nothing on it at all. And the example that we're going to do when we dive into the app here, we'll only just be voting on the ones that we like. I don't really see any reason to downvote something unless if maybe the proposal is completely off topic, or if you think, yeah, this one is harmful in some way, feel free to downvote it. But people do put a lot of time and effort into these things. So personally, at least with the vibe that we have on this channel about everybody helping each other out, if you like a proposal, vote for it. If you don't, just move on to the next one. There's no reason to assign your voting power as a negative count towards something. Because keep in mind, your voting power can be positive or negative. If you have this 50,000 ADA and you have 50,000 voting power, and you vote no on something, you vote a thumbs down explicitly, you're going to be doing a negative 50,000 towards their total. So keep that in mind. Another important point here is that if you remember when you registered to vote, you had to pay a network transaction fee, but during the actual voting process itself, there's no transaction fees incurred to cast the votes. Voting is done on a side chain and not on the main net, which is pretty cool. Not only are we testing out the notion of governance for Voltaire ahead of time, but we're also testing out side chains. We've talked about this in some previous recaps about how eventually in future eras, we're going to support lots of side chains, and we're seeing it here in action. Voter rewards. This will differ for the different funds, but for Fund 4, there's 140,000 US dollars in ADA to be distributed to all participating voting power. So what's going to happen is it's relative to your stake. There's a formula that we can link off as well. Actually, I'll just show it to you guys. It's here from Fund 3. Here it is. So they're using the same formula they used in Fund 3. The only difference is that the total awards that'll be multiplied by is 140,000 instead of 70,000. But basically, let's see if I can zoom in here. I don't know if I got much bigger, but basically it's your stake, right? However much your voting power is, divided by the total stake, the total voting power of everybody participating in the voting process, and that multiplied by 140,000, not 70,000. $140,000 worth of ADA. Your particular rewards are going to depend on how many other people registered to vote, but I mean, who cares, right? This is kind of a fun process and we're getting some incentive just for being part of it. So pretty cool. All right, let's get back to the all you need to know. The last thing I want to point out in this document is that before voting even opened up, we were lucky enough to have a bunch of community advisors come through all of the proposals, and the CAs were asked to review each proposal and give it a ranking and scoring for 3 distinct categories for every single proposal. Its impact, its auditability, and its feasibility. And they did it on a scale of 1 through 5, obviously 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. But then the cool thing is the score was then averaged from each of the 3 categories into a final score now visible inside the app. And in addition to this voting and ranking that the community advisors did, somebody in the community actually put together an easy way to start browsing these things and see the aggregation of the community advisor votes on this community-made voter tool. So let's take a look at that. We can see here a nice breakdown of all the different categories. And if we go into any of them, like developer ecosystem, we can see here the ratings by the community advisors for each of them. We can drill into those, and we can see a lot more information about each specific project, including the reviews from each of those different community advisors. Lots of ways to do our research before we dig in. So for those of us that are new to this process and we're trying to wrap our heads around all these different proposals, maybe a good way for us to narrow it down on this first pass for some of us that are new is let's just look at some of the ones that have higher rankings and then we'll go from there. So when we open up the app, which we're about to do right now, we'll see beside each of the proposals a star rating from 1 to 5 based on these community advisors and their votes on these 3 categories. So let's open up our Catalyst voting app. So I've got my Catalyst voting app here in front of me. All right, so we can see my voting power is 1090. If we scroll down, we'll see that we have 6 different categories that we can vote on: dApps and integrations, developer ecosystem, distributed decision making, proposer outreach, Catalyst value onboarding, and local community centers. And in addition to the 6 different categories, we also see at the very top that we have the option to vote on what we want the actual challenges or categories to be in Fund 6. The same way how we have these 6 different ones here, if we drop into here, we can also see here are the different proposed categories or challenges that we can set up for Fund 6. So we can vote on these as well. But let's go back to our dashboard And let's just go through these one at a time, and we'll take a look at maybe a couple examples of each. We're just gonna show you at a high level how the whole voting process works. We highly recommend that you go through this and take some time. You've got 10 days. So, dig into them and see which ones really resonate with you. But let's start here with dApps and integrations. The goal of it is, how can application developers drive adoption of Cardano in 2021? $200,000 are open during Fund 4 for this category. So let's look at this one here. Haskell devs for Liquid Plutus SCs. We can see the problem to address is Plutus is Cardano's smart contract layer written in Haskell. The first target users to build secure DeFi contracts in Plutus are senior Haskellers. So the solution is a team of 6 senior full-stack Haskell devs with deep fintech backgrounds, currently building on the Plutus extended UTXO smart contract system. So if you've already done a research ahead of time on these different projects, you can just come in and thumbs up the project to vote for it if you'd like it. Or if you want to get a little bit more detail, you can click down here at the bottom, see complete proposal and discussion, and it'll actually open up idea scale. If you haven't logged in, you're going to need to log in, but once you do, you can see the full detail of the proposal and their proposed solution. So let's go back to our Catalyst voting app. So let's say we've done our research, we looked into it, we said, yeah, this sounds like a good project. So we're going to thumbs up and vote for this one. This is going to show us we have one new pending vote. We're going to say, yep, we're going to vote for this one, and it lets us know our yes vote is not yet processed. It's going to go sort of into our cart, and then we'll submit it when we're done with all the votes that we're going to do. So this is good. Let's not go to my votes yet. Let's click away here. We'll see that it's in gray because we've already voted up. So let's go back from here, and let's maybe do one more. Here we go, Cardano on-chain voting. Let's look at that one. So the solution, expand and grow our existing solutions to vote on and via the blockchain to provide secure, immutable information and results to votes. Okay, let's vote for that one. One new pending vote, great. Well, let's look at our votes for now just to see. So we can see here are the 2 that we've thumbsed up. The first one asking for 36,500, the next one for 15,000. When we're ready to go, we can cast our votes. Let's look at a couple more before then. Actually, you know what we can do? Let's vote on the Fund 6 challenge setting. So again, these are the funds or categories that we're saying should be the ones that should be considered for Fund 6 that people can submit proposals for, and then we can vote on. So if we look down here, multilingual resources, that seems interesting. How can we motivate non-English speakers to learn and grow the Cardano ecosystem in the next 3 to 6 months? Multilingual platforms will allow non-English speakers to learn about Cardano and increase its adoption worldwide. That sounds really good. Let's say that we want that to be one of the categories for next time. So now, again, we're only just going to show a few here, but let's say you've gone through, you've done your research, you've selected a bunch of different proposals and challenge categories for the upcoming fund, and you say, yep, I'm ready to go. I want to submit my votes. So here you see a list of all of your votes. You can delete any of the ones that you don't want on there. And again, you can always change your mind after submitting, just vote again, and the blockchain will overwrite it with your last vote. So I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm happy with what we did here. Let's cast our votes. So here, to confirm our vote, we need to enter the PIN that we selected when we first registered the Catalyst voting app, when we first signed up to vote. So go ahead and enter your PIN, and then we're gonna hit confirm. So we've entered our PIN, we're gonna hit confirm. The submission is in process. Do not close the app during this process, and our votes were successfully cast. Fantastic. So we're gonna go back to the dashboard. And let's say once we're back here, we actually found out about a new really exciting project, or we said, you know what, I'm not so sure about my votes from before, and you want to change your votes. Really simple. Let's come in here and say, you know what, let's look at, I don't know, local community centers. And we say, I heard about this really exciting WADA proposal, local centers in West Africa. I definitely want to make sure they get some funding. I've done all my reading and research on them, and I'm really excited about that project. And then you said, you know, for challenge setting stuff, I was really excited about nation building dApps. This is a thing we should try and get other nations on board. With the poor nations with no foundations to stand on, a government dApp solution will be the building blocks. Yeah, this sounds awesome. I did a bunch of reading, you know, at night after I voted, and I changed my mind. This is what I want to vote on instead. So we can come through, select a whole new set of votes if we'd like. Now, obviously, you're going to want to try and remember the ones you voted on before that you liked, because this is a full new push of all new votes. So you're going to come in and say, okay, no, these are the ones that I definitely want to have as be my votes. I click on cast my votes. Again, you need to re-enter your PIN, hit confirm, and once again, it'll submit. Don't close it during this process. And now our votes have been successfully cast again. We've talked a lot about how Catalyst is a training ground for the Voltaire era. If you want a little bit of a refresher on the different eras in the Cardano roadmap, check out our throwback video number 1 that we posted, which goes through all the major eras from Byron, Shelley, Basho, and Voltaire. If you already know the roadmap backwards and forwards, check out another one of our videos. Happy voting, and we'll see you in the next video.